Indiana Fever are still on the cusp of playoffs. There is still a chance that they don't even make the playoffs if they don't win some of the games that they absolutely need to win. And this game was one of them. And I want to talk about what Coach Stephanie White had to say after the game. During an interview, she said these players have something inside of them that you just can't teach. They bring it out in each other, and it allows us to get through these incredibly tough times. It gives us a chance. I'm so incredibly proud of them for continuing to believe. And that is something where I feel like the media or other players have said that the Fever have locker room issues, and we even heard that last season. It seems like this core group, since DeWanna Bonner has departed and she is no longer with the team, it seems like this group really has come together, and whether they are winning or losing, they do have a sense of togetherness. Like we've said, it's been a wild ride when it comes to injuries, when it comes to Caitlin Clark going down, their franchise player only playing a small stretch. I think it's only 13 games that she has played this season with the team. And then you talk about Aari McDonald and Sid Colson being out for the rest of the season, both of them going down in the same game. And then you look at today's game where Sophie Cunningham went out in the first half. And that was such a huge blow for the Indiana Fever because Sophie Cunningham has been somebody, she has been the glue of this team since Caitlin has been out. She is playing so incredibly well during the second half of this season. She plays hard every single night. She's super tough. She doesn't make excuses. Like, she is somebody who has really held this team together, and seeing her go down in the first half, like, I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what it was at first when I saw her went down. So let's break down the play where Sophie got hurt. So I'm gonna put this video in 0.75 speed. So as you can see here, Bria Hartley is going baseline. Kelsey Mitchell is guarding her, and then Sophie comes over to help.
Aaliyah Odyssey Sims, Sophie Cunningham, Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell all contributed the kind of output and effort that typically wins these games for Indiana. With 20 points and 9 rebounds, Boston took the lead, bringing the Fever inside and making Washington falter each time she touched the ball. Mitchell was a playmaker as well as a scorer. Her final stats of 14 points and 9 assists don't fully capture the amount of the offense she was required to carry when possession stopped. Despite Cunningham's 8 points, her stat line went farther. 3 steals and 6 assists, including the standout play where she intercepted a pass and made a 3-pointer on the other end. Sims scored 11 points while attacking defenders and offering the roster's closest substitute for a genuine point guard just 2 games into her time on a hardship agreement.
And then Bria Hartley falls on her leg, and Sophie immediately grabs like her shin area. And I remember when I first saw this replay, at first I was like, oh my gosh, did she roll her ankle again? Because as we know, Sophie has rolled her ankle so many times this season. She has been battling little ankle injuries and she has played through all of them. But then I saw that she grabbed her shin. So I'm like, okay, did she hit her hard enough to actually fracture a bone in her lower leg? So let's watch the play one more time here. Bria Hartley going to her left, dribbling to the baseline, skip passing across the lane. But with that, she gets kind of tangled up. She falls down. She falls straight into Sophie's leg. And then Sophie grabs her shin area. Now, she was on the ground. She was crying. She was yelling. It definitely seemed like she was in a ton of pain. The training staff went over to her. They went to commercial break. Like, it was a real injury. This wasn't something, and Sophie's the type of player, a lot of times when she does get injured, she just gets right back up. She tries to walk it off. This was something that kept her down, and it was so hard to see. It is ironic because Bria Hartley has been in multiple scuffles this year with the Connecticut Sun. A lot of people would categorize her as a dirty player. I will say on this play in particular, I don't think that she was doing it on purpose. I do think that she was a bit out of control when she was driving to the basket, but I think this was unfortunately just a series of unfortunate events. You see the way that Kelsey Mitchell is guarding her, pushing her to the baseline. Sophie comes over simply for some help side defense, and then it just seems like Bria just kind of loses her balance, starts falling. She's out of control while going to the basket, and that's why she lands on Sophie's leg the way that she is. I can't honestly sit here and say that she was doing something intentional to hurt Sophie, but it just seemed like...
Here, context is important. This group isn't filling gaps. It isn't using its backcourt base to play. Aari McDonald and Sydney Colson both suffered season-ending injuries in the same week, and Caitlin Clark is still out. Due to the lack of dependable ball handlers, Indiana was forced to solidify the rotation by signing players like Sims and Lambert. The fact that they maintained control for as long as they did after being abruptly removed from the main initiators of the roster speaks volumes about the perseverance of the players already wearing the uniform. Inside, Boston had to bear far greater responsibility. Cunningham took on a more significant role as a facilitator while still handling all the grunt work on defense, while Mitchell's workload doubled.
A series of unfortunate events. I do think that this right leg is the leg that Sophie was suffering a lot of these ankle injuries this year. And if you remember, she had a really bad one at the beginning of the season and her and Caitlin were out at the same time. It looks like it is that leg. So I do wonder if there was any mobility issue in that ankle or even with the brace that she has on or the taping or whatever she has on going in that ankle. If it was on so tight or she has a brace where her ankle doesn't have the flexibility, mobility, when you get hit in the side and your knee is the only thing that is taking all of that force, that could have definitely led to that knee injury. A lot of the time when we see ACL injuries, a lot of the time it's a non-contact injury. This one was a contact injury. She will be getting an MRI on Monday, and so I don't want to speculate at this point, but we just don't know at this point. So all we can do is send Sophie our thoughts and prayers and hope that she heals up very quickly. Now, I also did want to point out that both Sophie's sister, I believe, and her mother both tweeted about this play. Now, Lindsay, her sister, said, WNBA, maybe you should focus less on fining players for commenting on your poor officiating and more about hiring officials that are able to call a consistent game and protect your athletes. Pathetic. Praying for you, Sophie. And then Paula, who I think is her mom, that's what the internet is saying, she said, Hartley is a disgruntled player, having trouble everywhere she goes. She's plain mean and plays out of control. However, just think if you are the Indiana Fever and it's just like obstacle after obstacle. And then in this game, a game that where two teams truly don't seem to like one another, one of your starters goes down, one of your leaders goes down. And after that, it did feel like the morale of the team was down for the first half, and they went into halftime being down 20
That
points.
Collective grind was evident at some points. Whether she got the shot or kicked it to teammates, Boston's inside presence drew defenders and kept Indiana solid during Washington's surges. Even when her own attempts failed, Mitchell's driving lanes made room by forcing the Mystics to collapse. The kind of play that gave the team a boost of energy when things seemed hopeless was Cunningham's steal and three. Unsteady. It's an emotional lift that is impossible to ignore, but doesn't manifest in plus-minus. Sims also shown why she was initially added. Her skill with the ball and maintaining possessions prevented Indiana from disintegrating sooner. Whether a team rolls over or continues to fight late into the fourth quarter depends on those specifics.
An ugly game. It shouldn't have gone into overtime, but it did, and the Fever were able to pull it out. So with that, I don't want to give negative criticism at this point in time to this team because they really have been through a lot. I did want to point out, however, that there was a tweet that Kennedy Carter sent, and a lot of people, when Ari McDonald and Sid Colson went out, there were so many fans saying hey, you know what? We should just sign Kennedy Carter. Sign Kennedy Carter. Who cares what happened last season with Caitlin Clark and Kennedy Carter? Just sign her. Get her on this team. She's a really good point guard. Where is she? Kennedy Carter tweeted this. She said, I can't even lie. The way Kelsey hooped tonight, low-key the best buckets all season. I'm looking at some of the replies here. A lot of people are saying, KJ said apologize to CC and we'll bring you in. Caitlin Clark's Stan account said, please come to the Fever. You, CC, and Kelsey would be so incredible. Nat said, we're waiting for you. KM for first team said, see you in Indy fam. There's so many. E-Money said, respect. Honestly, miss you, Kennedy. This is coming from a Fever fan. You ball like nobody else. So there was so many Fever fans in the comments hey, can you come to the Indiana Fever? We will welcome you. And so it actually will be so interesting. If that ever happened, this season is crazy enough. Honestly, anything can happen. And you guys know I've tried to be level-headed throughout this whole season. You guys know I'm an Indiana Fever fan. We cover them the most. They have the biggest fan base in the WNBA, so why wouldn't I? And I'm rooting for them. And I've tried not to crash out. I've tried to give benefit of the doubt. I've tried to stay positive through all this, but this season has been insane. You just do not know what to expect. And I've also been saying it's the Indiana Fever, like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get because one day they can be beating the Minnesota Lynx without Caitlin Clark and the Minnesota Lynx having Nafisa Collier on the floor. They're beating them in the Commissioner's Cup. And then A few weeks later, they're losing to the Dallas Wings by 1 point. And then this person's getting injured, this person's out. And so it's been a wild ride. And to close this whole episode, I do want to talk about Caitlin Clark. And unfortunately, I'm still feeling like if you guys haven't seen my whole video about Caitlin Clark's injury and my prediction on if she will return to the Fever or not, please check that out. But I think with Sophie Cunningham,
that's precisely the reason why frustration is so high. There was plenty of production on the roster. The names on the floor were where it got it. It was not without flames. It included energy plays that continued to gain traction. It lacked the modifications necessary to direct those efforts into a closing strategy capable of eliminating a faltering Washington squad. The players gave enough to win, according to the figures. The fight was also depicted in the movie. And the key to the future lies in the stark contrast between what the roster produced and how it was handled. Because as soon as the press conference began, the gap between the coaches and the players' statements it was impossible to miss. Steph White's post-game justifications contrasted sharply with Sophie Cunningham's candor. And that disparity gave you a clear picture of this team's current position. Cunningham didn't skirt the problems. Outright, she said, "Despite our severe injuries, we must return to our dog selves." It wasn't merely a cliché. It was a direct admission that opponents are now treating Indiana as a team to take advantage of and are no longer afraid of the Fever. Cunningham made a clear demand. Get your edge back, get that toughness back, and stop making the same mistakes again and over.
Going down, and we will see from the MRI, again, fingers crossed, prayers that it's nothing too serious. But if it's something where it's serious enough that Sophie is out for the rest of the season, and that is what I'm predicting, I feel like that hurts our chances of seeing Caitlin back on the floor for the Indiana Fever. Having Sophie going down, even if this team picks up another player, even if they get into the playoffs, if the Fever are in that 7 or 8 spot, I don't see them making it past the first round. The odds are really stacked against them. And at this point in time, it's not like they haven't fought. They have fought really hard. They've been through a lot. They had the whole thing with DeWanna Bonner leaving. They've had Caitlin in and out. They've had injuries. They've had the media pressures. They've had so many things. I get it. At this point, I get it. And at this point, if you have Caitlin Clark as your franchise player and you want to keep her in Indiana and you want to build around her and you want to make sure that she has longevity in her career and you don't want to risk anything serious with the injuries that she already has, I just feel like with Sophie going out, with Ari out, with Sid out, it just makes the most sense to just keep her out for this season. Again, it's up to Caitlin. It's up to the medical staff. I'm sure Caitlin is itching every day. She just wants to be there. I have more thoughts about that. I do want to keep this video though relatively positive because I think that's what the Fever girls need at this point. They just need an off day. They need to sleep in tomorrow and they need their fans to give them some positivity. And sorry, last thing I totally forgot to mention, Steph White actually cried in the locker room after today's win and they seemed like very genuine tears.
I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you too. Proud of you. I'm so proud of you guys. I know that sometimes it sounds like just a word when we talk about being resilient, but it's not, man. It's how we live. Yep. It's how y'all live, and it's a tribute to you. It's a tribute to your connectedness, your togetherness, your toughness, your mindset. You never give up gritty attitudes. Like, that's what it takes.
And that's just a testament of the weight that this team has been carrying, and it's been like this. And so that's why, again, in this video, I want to give everyone grace. I want to give props to everyone. They pulled off the victory. They've never come back from a deficit like that. And to see Coach Steph White crying while talking to her team, you can also see that she's been carrying a lot of weight. So whether you love Coach Steph White, whether you think she's a good fit for this team, whether you would want somebody else, there's still a human element to all of this. And so I think, at least for today, and at least after this win, we should give everyone grace and just keep it positive.
That is the main source of annoyance. Recognizing issues is one thing, but accepting accountability for the in-game decisions that may have resolved them is quite another. While White's breakdown fell short of taking responsibility for the changes she could have made, fans witnessed Cunningham voicing serious demands for immediacy and accountability. Mitchell wouldn't have needed to force shots into double teams if BBY's shooting had altered the spacing and loosened the paint. Players may have been shielded from exhaustion by longer rotations, which could have prevented bad defensive positioning. Rather, as the instructor explained how it became trapped after the event, the players continued to battle through the snowball.